So tell us about your latest column.
So I wrote for Independent Media Institute, where I'm a uh, senior correspondent with their Economy for All project to write about economic justice issues. And also, as you and our viewers know, I do solutions journalism. How are people fixing our broken world? So at the time when we were all very, very upset, rightfully so, about the billionaire tax breaks in the Trump and GOP's new so-called big, beautiful bill that you and I discussed on this show, a very important victory was unfolding in Southern California, here in Los Angeles, where I live and work. And basically, a group of workers, a group of thousands of workers, won the highest minimum wage in the nation, $30 an hour, which for LA is a big deal, still not enough to live on, but for the rest of the country is a huge deal considering that the federal minimum wage is still locked into a paltry $7.25 an hour. And this victory was for a group of workers that formed a coalition. They're represented by two different unions, SEIU, USWW, and Unite Here Local 11, and they're tourism workers in Southern California, which includes airport workers, hotel workers. And the reason why this happened and how they kind of waged this campaign was because Los Angeles is going to be host to two huge world events coming up in the next few years. We're going to have the 2026 FIFA World Cup, which is, soccer, and we're going to have the 2028 Olympics, the biggest
Which
sporting
year
event,
was that again for the Olympics?
2028. So in
Uh-huh.
3 years, we're going to have the Olympics coming to LA, right?
Hmm.
And so all of the profit making hotel industries are super excited about the windfall that they're expecting. And workers, very smartly, 2 years ago, began organizing, saying if they are going to be so excited about their profits, they're going to be doing this on our backs. What are we getting? And so they started agitating for what they call an Olympic wage. And they formed a coalition. They had their allies. They met with city council members. They pressured the city council through a combination of, hard, unrelenting activism and gratitude and just pushing them to do the right thing. And they won a vote at the city council level. So immediately their salaries go up to $25 an hour, and it goes increases to $30 an hour by 2028. This is a huge victory. We should have seen it all over the papers. It barely made a blip. And so I feel like we really need to hear these stories because it is possible.
The two kinds of stories, Sonali, that uh, make me happiest, and I think are most important from a solutions journalism, to use your phrase, point of view, are stories that provide a model for national action and organizing, bearing in mind that as a lot of people have come to understand, cities can be engines of progressive change, even under a regressive national government. So, number one, stories that can be a national model, and number two, those that really help us think in new ways about our world, our economy, our politics, our society. This story to me hits both because, first of all, we've people have come to been worn down into a state of, yeah, there's going to be something like the Olympics or some other event, a national party convention or something, and the hotel owners will make a fortune and we'll still be reworking people will still be screwed, and it doesn't have to be that way. And I mean, I think one of the great things about this story is that it says we don't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to take that as a given. And it also makes me think of the fact that in other parts of the world, they have something called sectoral bargaining in unions, where it's not divide and conquer working people by making them strike or organize at each and every different shop. It's not for an entire industry. The workers say this is what we need, and this to
That's
me
right.
it strikes both of them, don't you think?
I agree. Yeah. I mean, we see that in like a lot of European cities, a lot of Asian cities in South Asia, unions are strong. In Latin America, unions are strong, where you'll see, like, for example, the transportation industry will just come to a standstill. Different aspects of it represented by different unions, they come to an agreement because they realize that they have power in numbers. And so you had these tourism workers come together, which, by the way, this is a victory for racial justice, because the vast majority of workers in the tourism industry are people of color. They're Black and brown folks, they're immigrant labor. So this is a huge victory for them. And on their backs, the hotel industry, because of course, LA is a huge draw. It's a huge center for tourism. People come from all over the world to Los Angeles, to Universal Studios and to Hollywood Boulevard and to the all of the place where Hollywood happens and the magic of Hollywood happens. But the underbelly of that is these hardworking folks who live in one of the most expensive parts of the country. Right. It is so expensive to live in Los Angeles right now. And so they wanted this Olympic wage. They battled. They went on hunger strike. They started 25 months ago. This is what was so beautiful about it. They were forward thinking. April 2023, they first formed this coalition and started the campaign. And the other lesson for me is that these things take time, right? We want our victories to be instant because we have short attention spans. But the truth is they need time. It takes time. And the sooner we understand that, the better off we are in investing in long-term organizing. So they invested in long-term organizing and they came out for May Day. They showed up outside the city hall. When there was a committee vote, there were hundreds of people outside holding signs. And then when the full vote happened, they had, I interviewed, member of Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice, Reverend Jennifer Gutierrez, who was doing solidarity work. So a lot of clergy who are doing very important solidarity work with these workers pushed the issue to the point where the Los Angeles City Council had nowhere to turn. Like they were cornered. They were surrounded by workers. They said, well, we need a study to make sure that so there was a study done by Berkeley and it was found to be beneficial to everybody. And of course, you predictably have the industry pushing back. So there's some very standard responses. The most standard response that businesses have that they just don't feel ashamed trotting out every single time is, if we raise the wage, we're going to have to cut jobs. You don't want us to cut jobs, do you? And it's basically a veiled threat. Like,
not so veiled, actually.
Yeah. Right? If they cut jobs, they're going to cut their profits, right? And so this time what the industry said was, how do you expect us to raise wages at a time when profits are down, revenues are down, because we've had the fires and all of this. The flip side of that is when revenues are up, it's not as though the hotel industry turns around and says, "Oh, we're doing well, let's give our workers a raise." That doesn't happen. So it's irrelevant that revenues are down. What's relevant is workers needing to make ends meet, and they demanded it and they won. And this is very exciting. We need to see this sort of organizing happening all over the country in response, in particular, to the billionaire giveaway that's happening in Washington, D.C. right now. And you made a really important point. It doesn't matter if there are liberal mayors or governors in states, because plenty of Democrats continue to do the wrong thing. They take our vote for granted. Sure. And they, in one breath, speak about economic justice. In the other breath, they work behind the scenes against it, right? Gavin Newsom has done this. So many liberal Democratic mayors have done this. So we can't expect them to do us any favors. People have to demand their rights, as these workers did, and they won.
And, that raises another great thing about this story to me. And, I told you before we went on the air, I didn't even know about it. I'm a news hound by profession and inclination, but I'm not in Los Angeles anymore. So is that not only did they understand that this takes a long time and start planning in advance, but they were extremely strategic or tactical. I never know when to use which word, but their strategy and tactics were outstanding here, because the fact is, the one, I don't know if it was made explicit, but the one thing that first of all, whatever their profits do in the interim, they're going to make a fortune during the Olympics. And so the last thing on earth they would want is the possibility of a strike or even the threat of a strike to discourage tourism when this is going to, on deck to be their best year in many years. So that kind of tactical, search for the opportunity, search for the vulnerability, and plan ahead really says
Yeah.
great things about the people who
Yeah.
organize this.
This is offensive play as opposed to defensive
Right.
play, right? So instead of waiting for wage cuts or more work with no pay raises, they went on the offensive because yes, in desperate times strikes work and have to work. And when you can't win a contract, you go on strike. This was a different approach. Instead of waiting for contract negotiations, they went straight to the city council and mandated that the wage be raised sector-wide instead of going to individual employers and asking for something in their contract. And so it's very, very interesting. It's also important to understand this is them harnessing the power of government. Government is meant to be an institution that we run, that is ours, that acts in our interest. But far too often we've flipped that dynamic where we turn democracy and elections into popularity contests. We think, oh, we love this person. We'll elect them. They'll do right by us. We're going to go away for 2 more years or 4 more years and then come back and vote them back or vote somebody else in. No, it doesn't. It shouldn't. We should, yes, vote. And then whoever is in office, continue to push them to take decisions in our interest because they're not going to do it voluntarily. And so flipping that script and saying, what are they going to do for us as opposed to what are we going to do for them? This also showed us the power of that.
And in terms of, you're absolutely right. The center of gravity of change can't be with the elected officials. It has to be with organizers and outsiders and activists. And to that end, I want to go back to a point you made earlier, which was that two unions collaborated, Unite Here Local 11, which represents hotel and hospitality workers, and SEIU's USWW, whose members work at LAX as janitors, security guards, and other workers. They joined together. So you had a variety, I guess, of workers, including clerical and cleaning and
Tutorial and yeah,
right,
exactly.
yeah, and they came together. And I think whenever this reminded me of the popular as well as organizing successes, at least initially, of the teachers' strikes in 2017, where they deliberately not only struck for their own wages, but for better classroom conditions and for, in West Virginia anyway, correctional officers. So whenever a movement can display, this is all within one industry, but anytime a movement can display solidarity as opposed to, well, if we pay the hospitality workers more, we can't pay the janitors as much, that kind of divide and conquer.
Yep.
This seems like a good step away from that.
Exactly. And what is beautiful is that what this does, especially just here in Los Angeles, is it says to all of the other workers that are out there, hey, hang on, if this group of workers is going to get $30 an hour, but I'm a bus driver and my workload is going to go up too during the soccer and the World Cup, or I'm a train driver, or I am a city worker, why are we not getting that wage? Why are we not going to go and push the city council to, it's the opening act, I hope, of what can change. And I really, really hope that other cities take this model and take a lesson from this and do similar things, because we need to see these kinds of movements all over the country, knowing that they take time. Like, that something's coming up. If the Democratic National Convention or the Republican National Convention is coming to a city near you, I don't know which city it is, those workers need to be organizing right now. And hopefully they already are, and know that it works when they collaborate, when they form a big tent, when they push relentlessly. These workers struggled because they went on hunger strike. They marched. They took time off of work to march. They, luckily they didn't have to go on strike to do it,
right.
Which actually covered another with the same person, Jennifer Gutierrez of Clue. There was a strike of Kaiser Permanente's mental health workers who had gone on strike for 13 months, I believe it was.
Wow.
And it was very, very difficult. And they won their strike. They did the so just as we want workers to model what each other are doing when they're successes, sometimes when they do that, the playbook gets changed by the employer. So at Kaiser, what happened was Northern California mental health workers asked for a raise, asked for a contract, good contract. They won it pretty easily. So the Southern California mental health workers tried the same thing, and Kaiser dug its heels in and said, no, nope. And so they had to go on strike for 13 months. I mean, it's unimaginable to be working without a salary for 13 months at the same time when we need mental health workers in LA, especially more than ever, given the huge trauma we've suffered with the
Right.
fire. So it took them a really long battle because Kaiser was like, oh, hang on, we can't give in everywhere. But they persevered. They didn't win everything, but they won most of what they wanted. So, there's lessons everywhere.
Which is great news. Now, we talked about the fact that it didn't get much national coverage. Um, did it get much attention in or much of a reaction in the LA area?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, people are pretty stoked here. This is a fairly tight-knit, especially union town. And yeah, because there was so much solidarity across different sectors, right? Just unions plus the clergy, and there was a lot of solidarity. May Day, especially, we had a huge showing on May Day, and these workers have each other's back. So yeah, there was definitely a big splash here locally, and the city council is, they're on notice. They know that they they were forced into taking this vote, right? Because it was a long journey. Some of them did the right thing and took the right position right from the start. Others really had to be coaxed. So they're on notice. And yeah, it probably should have gotten even. I mean, of course, the LA Times did full coverage and everything, but hopefully it'll keep getting more coverage. And hopefully this will be the beginning of many, many stories. It needs national coverage, though.
Absolutely, which is why I'm glad you took it on. And before we go, Sonali, where can people go to find out more about your program and your other work?
Thank you so much, Richard. Yeah, so recently, Yes Magazine, where I was employed for 4 years, shut down operations, which is very sad because we just don't have enough sustainability for journalistic outlets. So I have decided to branch out on my own. I'm going independent. I've taken my show Rising Up with Sonali, which is syndicated to many, many different stations and on Free Speech TV and as podcasts. I'm turned it into a subscriber model, which is kind of like Patreon or Substack. So I have a free newsletter, and then people can upgrade to a paid subscription. And I made it really cheap because I want it to be accessible. It's like $4 a month. But if I can just get like 1,000 people subscribing, 1,000 to 2,000 people subscribing for $4 a month, I am fully independent and I can keep producing my solutions journalism work. So hopefully people who are watching this will, see how important it is to support good journalism, solutions journalism. And it's just, less than a cup of Starbucks coffee once a month. So you can go to risingupwithsonali.com/membership, or just risingupwithsonali.com and then click on membership and sign up. It takes minutes. You'll get access to all my interviews, my video interviews, my audio transcripts. We have special bonus episodes that will be starting soon as well. So hopefully people will join up. Thank you so much, Richard.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sonali. We'll see you again next week. As always, it was a pleasure. And as always, we'll be right back after this. We depend on your support here at the Zero Hour, so please give whatever you can at any of the links you see on your screen. Thanks so much.